time to start figuring out how I'm going to lay disinformation out for this rebuild. And probably some of these decisions should have been made before I started making parts. However, this is where we are. So this is the old frame for disinformation right now. And one of the major problems with this was the weight for the weapon on the nose was so far in front of the drive that it just didn't drive very well. It didn't have enough weight on the rear wheels, didn't have enough traction, and it was kind of hard to control. So if you look at this, it's 10 inches, around 10 inches, from the center of the weapon spin to the axles for the drive. So one of the things I need to do is I need to shrink that distance. Now I also had figured I was going to try to compact it this way, and the simple truth is I don't think I'm going to be able to fit everything in there to do that. So let's just throw some parts out for this guy. You can kind of see what my issues are. Obviously, I'm going to need the weapon motor. Kind of set him there. Now, if I was going to try to set the drive, something like that, well, this would be closer right here. This would be about 8.5 inches. But then in order to make this all fit, I'd end up having to put the battery back behind here, and I wouldn't be able to drive inverted because the tires just wouldn't stand up tall enough. So the battery kind of needs to be ahead of this, and now all of a sudden we just don't have the room for all the pieces. So the more I look at this, the more I think that this arrangement, I want these guys closer to the front of the robot. And so the only way to actually make that happen is going to be to make the robot wider and then just shorten it in this direction. Because now when I put that battery there, it's going to be actually pretty tight through here. So let's start laying out some metal, kind of figure out what we're going to do here, and try to figure out in such a way that I'm happy with the results. So I think what I've figured out is a configuration similar to this. I think this is going to work. It's going to be a little wider than I wanted. I'm going to have to watch weight on a lot of this stuff. But I think this will be strong, and I think it will work it'll drive a lot better. So if I lay it out as you see it right now. So I'm going to have the weapon motor, the battery right there. Going to have the drive motors there. Probably, we're going to set this up as something like this. Okay, so I'll have just enough room in there for the wheels. You'll have some sort of panel across the back. Nothing this thick, something thinner, but something across the back like that. And I'll probably try to wrap some either titanium or AR plate around there, which will give me enough room up front for the speed controllers to sit right there on each side. I'll have a little bit of room right there for like a negative block and whatnot. So I should be able to get all of the pieces to fit in here. And most importantly, for how I want this to arrange, the center of the spin axle to the center of the drive axle is going to be about 6.5 inches. So it should drive significantly better. And so that's kind of my plan right now, is to try to lay it out similar to this, as long as weight allows me to do that. I've still got a lot of machining to do here. Probably cut that corner back there, might come in a little bit there. I'm going to have to take some weight out of those supports, I'm sure of it. I got to cut the bottom titanium armor. That's going to be kind of the piece that ties everything back together. I'm going to have to make some sort of top armor. I'm going to have to machine out a spot here for the belt to go up to drive the weapon. So I still have quite a bit of machining to do in this process. But I think I've settled on the layout. This is how it's going to go, like this. And honestly, I'm pretty excited about it. I think this is going to work fairly well. I'm going to be happy with how it turns out, I think. I am going to have to, I was going to run the 3.5-inch tires instead of the 4.5-inch tires. And when I started doing some measurements, they're not going to stick up high enough out of the frame so that if I get upside down, it wouldn't be able to drive. So I have to go with the slightly larger tires. These ones have kind of a bit of built-in give to them the way they're designed, and these ones do not. So even though they're made from the same rubber, these ones don't get the same traction. This is a compromise I'm going to have to make now if I want to get the robot to work. It's going to end up having to go back to the 4.5-inch tires. But that's okay. It'll drive faster with the bigger tires. It'll all work out. And I'm still pretty happy with how it's turning out. I think it's gonna be pretty good. So keep following along. Next thing, we should try to finish up some of the bolting together of the frame. Then we'll move into getting it all wired up and trying to get it running and see what it sounds like when it's spun up.